So if we get that person that you're evolving into to come into the room, that person that you're saying goodbye, your past life, to make them wait outside. They can go hang out at Starbucks across the road, or they can just sit on the stoop. Then please allow yourself a couple of hours stepping into the ideal you, the beautiful you, the blissful you, the no pain you, the you that looks at another person and just feels love, the you that doesn't have disturbing thoughts, the you that doesn't get angry, desperate. So if you can just be present in your body, I'm going to attempt to do the same. So when we bow down, we ask for something from the teacher. Yeah, it's humbling, but it's also, please give me something. And you have to know what you want in order to identify it when you get it. So what do you want? And there's no right answer, it's just what do you want now? So please think about that. It should be joyful, it should be a lovely thing. Who gets to spend 2 hours thinking about an ultimate me, a beautiful me? I think that's lovely. And that should permeate out of you in a beautiful way. So I hope over the next couple of hours we get to do that together, and to invite that. We do this thing, this funny looking thing, in this tradition which creates a beautiful, you don't have to do it here, but it's a mix. It's this and that and that. There's a niceness about the struggle about it. Nobody sits you down and teaches you. But the point is, it's not whether you do this or you do that or nothing. It's really what comes out of your heart. Because you could be sitting here, and many people do, and do a bunch of blah blah, and unless you're putting something through your mind, it doesn't mean anything. So it's exactly what you put through your mind as you do whatever activity that transforms your world. So in this case, we create, imagine from this very center that the entire universe emerges out of here and is utterly perfected. What would a perfect universe look like? Every sensation in that universe, every object in that universe, every glance, every movement of mind in that universe, every creature, perfect. So you imagine that. I then color it in gold. And then you offer that to the most ideal teacher, the being that teaches you the most, imaginary or real. And you say, please, in the next 2 hours, teach me. It's a bribe, please. So.
Sashi Uki Jushi Metotram Rira Vinci Indegam Padi Sande Shindu Mite Vargi Droku Nanda Shinla Juparsho Idam Guru Ragnamandala Kanyatayami Sangye Shudam Soki Jognamna Janshu Vardu Datmi Gapsuchi Daki Jinyengi Pesonamki Rola Penchir Sangye Druparsho Sangye Judam Soki Jognamla Janshu Vardu Datmi Gapsuchi Daki Jinyen Yipe Sonam Ki Rola Penshir Sangye Druparsho Sangye Judan Soki Jognanga Janshu Bardu Dagni Gyasuji Daki Jinyen Gipe Sonam Ki Drola Benshir Sangye Druparsho.
And so that last part was really about the second course we did, which was taking refuge. And this is about understanding that right here, right now, so close to your skin that we miss it, is the very potential to become everything you want. Taking refuge in the Buddha means taking refuge that the mind of the Buddha has in essence the same quality than your mind now. It is empty of having any inherent nature, meaning it can be anything, it's potential. Your mind has that stuff. Buddha Dharma means that things don't have any inherent nature, but in a practical way, every single thing we experience, it is pregnant with the possibility of becoming perfect, becoming anything other than what it is. And the Sangha is that there's some, if your mind can evolve a little bit, your experience of being can evolve a little bit, it can evolve a lot. And so you can evolve ultimately. In fact, we talk about that in this course. So there could be beings that have woken up to the ultimate nature of things. And these beings, if they can become that, coming from a mind like ours, so can we. So we go to those beings to help us figure out how to get there. Buddha Dharma Sangha. So that last chat, that last chant was that. And it hit me today. You know, I've been doing that chant for like 17 years. And the majority of that time I've been doing it like an idiot. You know, like, it is a trigger to habituate your mind to say every time you have those words come out, you must enter into the experience of those three things. The nature of all things are empty. My mind is like that of the Buddha's mind. It has that quality of emptiness. And there are beings who have had a direct perception, direct experience of that ultimate reality, not the relative reality, and I have access to them. So every time we do that part, it should send electric shocks through your system to go, wow, this is incredible. I am so lucky. You know, but instead I go, oh, I'll go on Facebook now. You know, so that it's our job, it's no one else's job to train your mind to go, every time I hear those things, every time we do the blah blah, it has to invoke that thing in you. That's why the practice. Otherwise it's just more garbage, more stuff. So please think about how amazing that opportunity is, how incredible. Even if you don't get 80% of what we talk about, which I don't, you know, I'm practicing. Even if we don't get that, at least take refuge in those things. There's something that can really shift my consciousness. Those three facts, those three things are available to us every day. We do it, you know, blah blah. So that alone is worth thinking about. The rest is exactly the same. Habituating blah blah into inner experiences. So now we get into the nitty-gritty of the blah blah. That's what these classes are for. So to begin, we'll get our mind, the mind that habituates the Facebook, that goes through life normally, angry, wanting, hoping. Just leave that aside for a little bit. Just 2 hours. step into a mind that has complete awareness and control over its environment. A mind of wisdom, a heart of love. What would that feel like if you had that right now? Who would you be like? So to do that, we move from reverse to neutral. And what that means is you get rid of all your crap, all the self-negative talk about I'm no good, I'm bad, nobody loves me, everybody hates me, I think I'm going to eat worms. Just leave them. I'm too fat, I'm too old, I'm too bald. Leave them outside. Let them have a conversation with each other. So this whole class downstairs having a little chat with each other. Yeah, your dilemma's worse than mine. I agree, but mine's really bad. You know, you should listen to my problems. And so let them go and have a conversation. They're having a little alternate reality. And here we have, if you can imagine, the edges of your skin begin to transform and melt into the inside of you until everything disappears. We'll do that in a second. And we'll see what you can become. So we can have an enlightened conversation for the next 2 hours with a mind that can perceive that. Just play with that. So I invite you to do that. And then we can listen with a pure mind to really get those teachings that are available to us. So if you've never meditated before, just take a comfortable seated position. The back of your butt should be higher than your knees, hopefully. Unless you've got really big thighs, and then that's okay. I forgot to leave mine downstairs, sorry. It snuck in for a little while. Your back should be straight, that's the point really, but not so straight that it's rigid. Straight so it's like being pulled up by gravity. Really grounded at your base, stretched up, chest forward and open, shoulders slightly back, well balanced, not leaning back, not leaning forward, your face facing forward. Scan the bottom of your body, your torso, your hips. Suck in your tummy just a tiny bit, enough so you don't have to support your lower back. And watch how it's easy to stay that way. Move up your torso, relax your shoulders. Don't let them lean forward, just relaxed. And then the most important features, your face. Really spend some time relaxing your muscles there. You should have a slight smile at the edges of your lips that opens up something around your nostrils. It feels like flowing there. And just breathe. Imagine it's your first breath in this new form. It should feel like bliss. One last scan of any tension at your forehead or your eyelids. And make a conscious decision that for the next few minutes you'll forget that body. It will sit there and it will wait. If it itches, it'll go away. If it wants to move, it'll go away. Just whatever it is, once you've found that balance, you're being pulled up like a string at the top of your head. And just breathe. Focus your mind, press your mind tightly against the breath and observe it exiting and entering your nostrils. Do that for a few rounds. If your mind gets distracted, press it again against the breath and see how much joy you can get out of that sensation. breath should get a little bit deeper once you begin to relax into it. See if you can press your mind against the sensation of the breath entering your nostril, so hitting the back of your nose. See if you can have that sensation, your mind focused just on that point. And as it exits, the warm air coming out of the tip of your nose. So now I'd like you to call upon your teacher, whoever the most enlightened being you have in your mind. As soon as you ask for them to come, they appear in front of you, seated, facing you, same posture as you, your knees almost touching. It's very intimate, just you and them. You're breathing at the same rate. Look upon their eyes, just focus on their eyes. If the image is not clear, don't fight it. Feel the sensation of them being in front of you. See the gravity of their body in front of you. Maybe there's a scent to them. There's a movement to the way they breathe, their chest rising and falling. But if you can see them, see if you can just look at their eyes. And all you see in them is pure, complete love for you. What do those eyes look like when they are in love with you? And so in front of them you are completely disarmed, completely trusting. In their eyes you can tell they love you way more than you can understand. And something should happen around the level of your heart. You should feel that love drawing you in, expanding. So as you feel that, see if you can get that energy like a light at your chest. Begin to make every inner organ translucent. Begin to clean up any negativity in your body, any pain, any hurt. And gradually they become perfect and clear, translucent with every breath, every time you look upon their eyes, until the complete inside of you is just a massive, vast space of blue sky with a burning light at your heart. The very pores of your skin now begin to glisten in front of them. If you can't imagine it visually, see if you can feel it in your body. You should feel light. So you realize that just their presence has given you so much. You want to offer them something of beauty, so make them some kind of offering. It could be the simplest thing. It could be the soft texture of a petal of flowers. It could be an entire universe transmuted into gold and perfection. It could be a most beautiful memory. Share something with them that they see in your eyes and they see into your heart, your motivation. Watch them accept it and smile with their eyes at you. And now I want you to think back at all the afflictions or any negativity that the replicas of you that are downstairs, like ghosts wondering why they hurt. See if you can think of one thing that being did that wasn't a pleasant thing. Maybe they hurt somebody. Maybe they said something harsh to somebody that loved them, or someone that was just trying to get along with them. Maybe they did something dangerous. Maybe they were careless. And see if you can give that being down there a tiny bit of insight about the consequences of creating some negativity in their life. They brought some anger, some jealousy, that they have to live through that. That choking up feeling that comes from that. And that's not what they want. They want happiness. So see if with your enlightened mind, your better mind, you could make a resolution not to do that specific thing. Think of one specific thing in the last 24 hours, let's say. Some anger, some hatred. And see if you can make a commitment not to do that thing for a short time. Next time the opportunity arises, you will remember not to do that thing, that person down there. And that should clear up some room in your mind, in your conscience, that you'll balance things out. The next thing I'd like you to do with this more enlightened mind is to look at that person downstairs, that replica of you, and scan their mind for the last 24 hours and think or find a moment that they did a most beautiful thing. They did some kindness in their world. They had some beautiful motivation. They brought some happiness and well-being into the world. Be very specific about this one. See the effects of that action in your world. And feel some joy. See if you feel that joy now in your heart for having done some goodness. And all of a sudden you see in them the potential for more of that in your life, and the potential of other people to have that thing in their life. So see if you can bring your mind to a moment in time where people around you have done good things, helped each other selflessly, were kind to each other, and all those things we seek. Think of any specific people around you, family, friends, colleagues, even strangers helping each other. That's available to us. Feel some joy when you see it. And now ask that teacher in front of you to please always teach you, regardless of what happens in your life, that the presence that they represent comes to the foreground of your mind at every turn, when things are good, when things are hard, when things are clear, and when you're confused. Ask them, look into their eyes again. See, recognize in their eyes their willingness to be present and available to you at every turn. And ask them please to always stay so close, so very, very close. And as you ask them that, watch them rise up and turn to face the same direction you're facing. Begin to get smaller and smaller until they rest at the crown of your head, just above the tip of your head. Only the size of a thumb. So very close to the top of your head, you can totally feel their presence there. They are radiant, they are vibrant. It's love and wisdom combined. See if you can see inside of them a massive ball of light, crystalline light, that turns into droplets of wisdom and love, and they drop down into you, entering the crown of your head, and fill the entirety of your body. One drop of that is so potent that it activates something beautiful inside of you. And you're capable of hearing with new ears, seeing things afresh with new eyes, conceiving of things with new mind. That is inside of you now. And with that mind, I invite you, please, bring your attention back to your body, and when you're ready, you can open your eyes. And see if you can maintain that state as best as possible. Because the more you habituate that, the more that's available to you in your world. Really why you're here, you know. And then I was thinking about how easy it is for all of us to get accustomed to something and make it normal. Today I was thinking about that, you know. We have this tendency to make everything normal. And then we go and live our life as if it's normal. And yet, it's so there and available to us to see that the very things that we think are normal are completely and utterly perfect. They can be. There's something that forces us to make it normal, that this inertia about being this kind of human, that way of looking at the world, almost forced upon you. It's not a choice so much. And yet it's not fixed, it's changing. So So if it's changing, it can be changed. So I was thinking about that today as I'm prepping for class, and I'm just going through my emotions. I've been doing that for a little while now, and I've got my normality around it, not so good. I miss the magic, the real magic, the practical magic. It transforms how you see things. It's available to you. So, I went into the other room and I went, okay, let's go connect with myself, just sit down a little and calm down. And I saw a picture of a face of Ken Rinpoche, who's the Tibetan teacher who in his body and his mind held an ocean of knowledge, deep knowledge about existence, about love, about wisdom, about how things can change. And I looked at his face on that picture, and I thought this was a human who lived an entire life carrying this stuff from yet another teacher, Trijang Rinpoche, and another teacher, Babongka Rinpoche, and another teacher. And each time, I think about these beings, because we get to study a little bit about them, I realize the oceans of wisdom inside of them. They carry it, in their experience, in their insight. They force their bodies and their mind to understand these things that is being human. How do you transcend that? How do you get rid of the stuff that hurts? How do you step into Buddha, waking up? What does that mean? Is it possible? Can I do it? And so they do all this crazy stuff. They go into the mountains, they meditate for a long time, they do this prostration, they memorize books, they put their body and their mind. I'm looking at Ken Rinpoche's face, it's just eyes and a mouth, and I remember him. I was scared of him. He was stern. And he transmitted that to an incredible person called Geshe Michael Roach. His whole life has been this stuff. And then I looked at myself. I'm like, I'm just this guy. And I've been fortunate enough to get, there's this ocean of knowledge, and I'm this tiny vessel. And I get to share a little bit of that with you. And then it's your turn. It's got to be worth something. It's got to be for something. It can't just be talk. How do you turn it into your DNA? It's not just philosophy. It's actually tangible, practical, experiential, visceral wisdom. It's not just a word. It's like everything we see and touch and smell and taste, and everything is transmutable. This is this ocean of stuff poured into us. And I have this little thimble, to catch a tiny bit. I'm not a good learner. I'm a thick person. And so I caught a little thimble, and it transformed my life of this knowledge. And so I hope that I can throw back a little bit of that thimble to you. I realize that's what I'm doing here. And it's got to be special. It can't be normalized. You know, this thing is here for a short time. So I hope deeply, deeply you get something. And if you don't connect it to what you want, then you don't understand when you get it. The thing is that you get way more than you want. This ocean of wisdom and knowledge. So I hope that you get some of that. And you get it if you come, you know, if you listen, if you hang around. If you were here when beautiful Mark was teaching the other day, he was saying, just hang around, just keep coming. And those people that hang and listen to this stuff, something sticks. You know, and I feel that. So I encourage you to do that. Very important stuff. So the stuff we're learning, for those of you who are new, I noticed some new faces, is this is the fourth course of 18 courses, which is a condensed version of that ocean of wisdom, called the Geshe degree, or Doctor in Theology, I guess, in Tibetan. Takes anywhere between 18 to 25 years study in a Tibetan monastery. It covers 3 great books, or 3 great big ideas, 5 great books, 5 great big ideas. 3 states of mind, lists of lists. And the topic that we're on at the moment is pramana, which is one of those 5 big topics. So, did we do quizzes yet?
No.
Let's pass out the quiz while I share with you a summary and review of last class. So, and if you happen to hear the answer of what we're covering, then that's fine if you put it in your pop quiz. But please, if you haven't done the homeworks and quizzes, I encourage you to do it. Try something new. So what's the name or Tibetan name of the study of logic and perception? Thank you. Sema. So what's Sema? What's it mean, Sema? Correct?
Or valid perception.
Or valid perception. What's the Sanskrit name for that? Pramana. Okay, what's the definition of existence in Tibetan or Buddhism? Observed by pramana. I've got one here. Someone want to refine that?
Perceived as valid perception.
That's good. That perceived by a valid perception. Remember, it was eyed. The word was eyed by a pramana. That's bizarre when you think about it. What's existence? What is something that exists? Huh?
Perception of a perception.
A perception of a perception. It's bizarre. Chew on that for a long time. Existence is something that got recognized by your perception. Wow. That has so many implications you should be arguing about now. Oh, that's not true. Listen. Let's get on to class 2. So I know that I didn't cover everything in the homeworks, so I'm going to do some catch up. There were some texts that we call this the onion skin theory, right? There was some texts, some old texts from the early 400s AD who began the whole. One of these pandits grabbed all the teachings from the sutras and the Buddhas and began the school of logic in Buddhist thought. And it's important, they're more important than your grandparents, because when you think about that ocean of knowledge that we are so very fortunate to have available to us right now in this room, it comes from them. People like Ken Rinpoche, who spent their entire consciousness developing and internalizing these ideas, having realizations. You have realizations. We have realizations about all sorts of things. Oh my God, I can't pay the rent this month. That's a realization. You know, imagine having realizations about big things. You know, realizations of, important issues. like, sure, you can figure out how to pay rent eventually, right? That's a realization. But what if you got a realization that things did not have to be the pattern that we experience on this planet? That forced normality that I was talking about. What if you have a realization about that? It takes exactly the same mind to have a realization of, oh my God, I have to pay rent at the end of the month. I won't make rent. It takes the same mind. It's the same jumping hoop about a different object. And that's why this course is awesome, because we get to talk for the first time. After we did the first 3 courses, we get to talk about, let's discuss what reality is. Let's discuss the levels of this reality, which will be this course. Let's apply a logic that is unbroken and unshakable wherever we can, and we'll dissect reality and see if we can apply it to the essential questions of being human. Like, what happens to you after you die? It's a big question. There's this whole human after human society has spent so much time thinking about that. What if you could develop the same mental skill or the mental muscle to have those realizations about, oh my God, I can't pay rent. And then you develop to such a degree that you can apply to bigger and bigger objects until you have a realization of a valid realization onto a bigger object, massive object. What would that do? Imagine if you walked around this planet, I'm just throwing it out there. Imagine if you could have a pramana right today. Because one day you don't think about the rent, the next millisecond you have a pramana about not paying rent, and then your month changes. You find the money to pay rent, you get working, you do stuff, you behave differently, you act differently because you've had a valid perception. Imagine you could have that kind of perception, that kind of aha about death. What if you could have an insight that was as valid as, my God, I have to pay rent next month, towards mortality? What if? Really? Important question. What if you became certain about what happens about that? We'll talk about that today. I got distracted. One of the first beings that were able to put this into context and word in a way that we could learn it was Master Dignaga. Do you remember him? Yeah. The dates in the readings I gave you said what year he was living. Yeah. Wikipedia and a whole bunch of other new online research says 480 to 540, and so I did a bit of research, and it looks like many people are agreeing now, because we weren't really sure in 1996 when we were putting these courses together with Holy Education Michael. There wasn't really much access to literature other than going to a book or a library. Yeah. So now more and more texts and historians are looking at these masters. And so they're saying 480 to 540 AD. And he wrote the Compendium of Valid Perception, is that right?
Yeah. Say the dates one more time.
480 to 540 AD. Master Dignaga. I think, and I was able to find a commentary that wasn't a Tibetan commentary on that book, and I think it's got 8 chapters. Very interesting. Just to have a look. It's like Plato. It's like fundamental, different way of looking at the world, and we don't have access to that in the West. You creatures in this room, for some reason, have access to this stuff. It's a completely new way of looking at things. What if, with your Western training and some kind of learning from this Eastern training, you could have a pramana that was different to a pramana of a person who's only trained in a Western point of view about reality. It's available to you. That's why it's magnificent. So that text is so old and so difficult, and it's actually in code, because the way that they used to learn is that you'd put word after word after word without creating whole sentences. Sometimes it looked like poetry, but it was just to trigger a whole teaching that you get on that topic. So 5 words might cover a whole day's lecture. Does that make sense? So you would memorize these words. We read them now and we're like, we don't know, unless you have the verbal transmission. In Tibetan we call it lung. That's why this is unique. So I look at Ken Rinpoche, I looked at Geshe Michael, I saw that transmission happen. I had a valid perception, I had a pramana that happened. I also met Trijang Rinpoche's reincarnation, and I saw the way Ken Rinpoche revered and learned from him. And anyway, we'll talk about that later. So then from that was difficult to read, Master Dignagas. We had the commentary on valid perceptions, a commentary on the compendium by Master Dharmakirti, and his year 630 AD. And then we had
Light on the path.
Light on the Path
Freedom.
to Freedom,
Gyaltsab
Gyaltsab J, yeah, who is on the left of that tanka, okay? So Gyaltsab J is Je Tsongkhapa's, one of Je Tsongkhapa's disciples or main students. That tanka that's near the door always has Je Tsongkhapa, the guy in the yellow hat, and 2 of his most prominent disciples. And Gyaltsab J is on the left and Kedrub J is on the right. So his commentary on the compendium really just helped who? Geshe Wangchu, who the years in your reading said 1928 to nothing. It was actually 1997, okay? So he passed in 1997, which was the year before we finished writing this course, I think it was. Go Wikipedia. So, Jewel of True Thought. Through these words, if you spend some time just looking at them, it will do something to your head. Who had a chance to look at the readings? Did you see his poetry about himself?
About how bad he is.
Yes, and this is a really good thing, and then this is a bad
I was
thing.
around all these great teachers, but I didn't learn anything. I read all these great teachings, but I just don't
Get anything.
And then I was like, no, he was amazing. He was awesome.
Yeah, he was an incredible teacher. Yeah. Again, another being that habituated. What do you do with a life? What do you do with a human life? I know I'm wasting a ton of mine. Yeah, I am, honestly. If I just look at my entire life and I put into mountains just the time I spent looking after my body, just paying for rent, yeah? Making sure it's sheltered and washed and clothed, and it's a lot of time. How much couch time? If I grabbed all the couch time. How much ice cream time? If I grabbed all the ice cream time. At least 2 hours last night. Was there. Yeah, dulce de leash. Dulce de pramana. So then, I probably didn't give you this answer very well last class, but remember that there are 2 types of books used in the monasteries that divides all these things, and then I've talked about the children's books. Do you remember that? They covered some topics like Shishedrak. Yeah, remember that? I didn't cover it in detail. I didn't warn you it was going to be in the homework. So what are the two kind of books that we cover in the monastery to talk about pramana and valid perception? Collected topics and study of reasoning. And some of the topics include formal logic, I guess the subject of comparison, the Chishedrak, which is generals and specifics, like car and Chevrolet. Yeah, an outline of all existing things, which we'll get to do. I love that. And what else was there? Classifications and the definitions of definitions. Yeah. Yeah. So that will help you on your question. And I don't remember if I told you what Gyaltsab J said about Jason Kappa. Do you remember what he said? That was asked in there. He said that the kindest thing Jason Kappa did for him was teaching logic. Yeah, teaching the study of pramana, what we're about to spend some time on. And then this, I had a few people ask me, what the hell does this mean? The quote from the Buddha when it comes to pramana. Yeah? So does anybody want to read me the quote? You're supposed to memorize it last week, apparently.
It says, I or someone like myself can judge a person, but no normal person should judge another, or he or she will fail.
Fall.
Fall. Not
Yeah.
fail.
They will also fail if they fall. Yeah.
Right. Fall is a kind
Yeah.
of
Your interpretation.
Lots of words beginning with F that can happen to them. Like final,
Wow.
foul. Yeah. That's you snuck in. No, it's actually something I want to use later to show the school of implication, which we just made that up. Now we've got the liar in here. Great. Get out! Those possessed by demons, go back downstairs. So what does that mean? Someone like myself, who's talking?
And like
The Buddha.
So imagine a being, an enlightened being, a being that woke up about how things function. Yeah? That can have, so we're going to have to go through the qualities of a Buddha, right? So just to get a quick answer so we can start class, a being like him or they who can perceive everything in existence, who are omniscient, not omnipotent, can read another person's mind. So it's not even that they're judging. It's not like they have a deductive thought about what's happening in that other being's mind. Imagine that somebody could read a bubble above your head, every thought that went through there. Imagine if we walked around with that bubble and people could see your thoughts and all the layers of those thoughts. Yeah? You would be stopping at every corner, right? I'd be like, not looking at guys on the street or anything like that. I'd be like, don't look, because then the bubble would say something very honestly, like you would change your behavior instantly. Yeah? Honestly. Yeah. You would totally change your behavior instantly if people could read what popped into your mind almost involuntarily when you find yourself in certain situations. You would not do certain things. You wouldn't put yourself in certain situations. Isn't that interesting?
So in a sense, could it be said that the only reason we retain the illusion of privacy is because we're so afraid that other people could read us?
Isn't that interesting?
Mm.
Isn't that interesting?
So Facebook's just...
Oh, what Facebooks and status updates? What the hell's that? You know, like we're like 3-year-old. I need to go poo-poo now. You know, give me juice. I want some juice. Yeah. When's mummy coming home? Are they coming home soon? And it's like we're children. Status updates.
Hector, could I share that exactly what you just said is something that we talked about at Starbucks? Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Because when Geshe Michael was here last, we did this class where we tried to identify like our top mental affliction and then work on it. So I was working on judgment, and Hector said, do that. Literally imagine the thought bubble. If you find yourself thinking negative thoughts of people, like imagine they can see it. It's not just in your head, people can see it. And I find that really helpful.
Mhm.
So,
I think about it often. Okay, if you're sharing that, I'm going to share yours.
okay.
I'm I'm self-deprecating, so you know. No. It's a habit, and so Pete said, whenever you have one of those thoughts, call me up and tell me that thing. Don't think about it for you, and that stopped me. I'm like, wow, if I have to call him and say all the horrible things I say about myself to myself.
No, he did. He called me and he was like, "You're fat," and I was like, "What?"
That was 24 hours after making effort. I made effort for 24 hours, and then I woke up. You know, one of those mornings where it just doesn't matter what you put on, right? I just couldn't contain it anymore. I picked up the phone and I thought, screw it. You know, I'm like, you're just fat and ugly and old and I didn't even say hello. You know, but that worked. Yeah, tricking your mind in these ways works. So what that means is, imagine an enlightened being can have every object in existence appear in their mind, past, present, and future. Mind-boggling. But if that were true, then he's saying, for someone like me, I can see what people's minds are doing. But for someone like you, assuming you are who you seem to be, if you can't read my mind, and if I can't read your mind, you can infer what they might be wanting or they might be intending, but you don't know. You never know. That's a fact. You don't know. I don't know. And what does it mean that if you then pass judgment or you act as if it was true, what you thought they thought was true, which is what we do a lot of the time, you will fall. What the hell does that mean? You go, I mean, you know, the Catholic me goes, oh great, we get to talk about hell again. You know, so you'll go to hell. What does go to hell mean? You know, you will fall from grace, you will fall from the top of the steps.
It's a cascading effect of negative perceptions.
You will fall. Yeah. He means specifically, if you ask the Tibetans, if you ask the Sakya tradition, if you ask the Lupa tradition, they mean literally you will experience a hell realm. Yeah? Is there a hell somewhere down there under the earth? No, they don't believe that. But you will experience, your mind will be forced to experience hells. What the hell does that mean? We'll get to that, but what it says is that ultimately you're perpetuating a cycle of suffering because you're not acting on pramana. You're not acting on valid perception. The whole ignorance is acting without knowing. Ignorance is the core of the wheel of life. The pig in the wheel of life is ignorance, the state of mind of ignorance. And then because of not knowing, not having pramana, not knowing for sure, two states of mind arise. Ignorantly wanting, ignorantly not wanting. And that's where garbage starts. That's the whole cycle of suffering. The whole wheel of life comes out of that pig, that ignorance. So let's apply it to this statement from the Buddha. I don't know what you're thinking, but I'm going to assume and act as if it's truth. I'm ignorant to what you mean. And I'm going to not like you all of a sudden because you made me feel terrible. Yeah? He's not inside me making me feel terrible. My mind is doing these things, and that's the whole purpose of meditating. You catch your mind doing these leaps of non-logic. You begin to behave differently. First of all, it's really scary because your whole world opens up into this vast, I don't know anything. And that's the big. But to know that you don't know anything, all of a sudden you know one thing. For sure, you know? Before you were like blindly trying, you know? At least you're like... So, think about that statement. Yeah? Interesting. Now we can start class an hour later. I do this, but I think it's important, right? I think we get back to the reality of what it is that we need to use this study for. So we study logic and reasoning, because there are some things in your world that you can be sure of, and there's a ton of things in your world that we have no clue about, really, if we're honest. And that's what I want to say. If you say Nyung Gyur, these are 3 levels of reality. So there, I think in ACI 2 and 1, we covered 2 levels of reality. Do you remember what they were?
Subjective and ultimate.
Relative and ultimate. Yeah? So let's quickly discuss those 2 levels of reality. Relative reality is, imagine your brain being a box, your mind, your perceptions being, I know in the West we associate mind with brain, so that's why I'm doing that. Yeah, your mind being a black box, a dice, 6 sides. In each side you have 1 hole each, so it's a dice of 1. Imagine that's inside your cranium. Yeah? Inside there is where you perceive. Each hole, each of the 6 holes is 1 door of perception. Your eye consciousness going through 1. So this tiny little hole in this vast universe of light, you get to see through there. Yeah? That's it. Your sound consciousness, out of the immensity of vibrations, and we can measure some, but we can't hear them. You get 1 filter, 1 tiny little filter of what's vastly out there in your little box in here. Yeah? That is relative reality. Ultimate reality is what's outside that box. The real reality. It's big. In fact, it's so big. And when you get 2 boxes together, observing the same light, hearing the same sound, you get 3 boxes, 5 boxes. When they tend to be human boxes, we tend to have a conventional reality, that a table is a table, that a chair is a chair, that water is good, and this and that. That's our convention. We're forced. Those kind of boxes, with that little view of the big reality, thinks that's real reality. And it's not. It's 1 level of reality. The big reality is outside the box. And when you get different shaped boxes, like a dog's box, yeah, or a rabbit's box or something, they see the same shapes and colors and things in a completely different way. Their filters are different. They're forced to have a different thing. And that proves that there is no inherent nature in any of that reality. There is no yellow in yellow. That's what it means. It's empty of being yellow from its own side. That's what the whole world emptiness is. So the one quality that we can agree on is that that big thing outside the boxes is vacant, empty, void, lacking of any of the qualities that are inside the boxes. And yet, for the boxes, it's true. It's not true.
But there's something.
Absolutely, otherwise we wouldn't be talking about it. This is what, the box is habituated to seeing yellow as really yellow, truly yellow. There's nothing else but yellow. As soon as you apply a little bit of logic to it, yellow falls apart. And our little boxes either want to not ignore or kill all the rabbit boxes, yeah, to prove that's where fights come from. Yeah, the subtlety that we get to talk about that. So that's the 2 levels of reality. That's not what we're talking about. There's a different slice to that because it's a different school of thought. This is a mind-only school. There's 4 main schools in Tibetan thinking, in Buddhist thinking. I don't know how to think about them separately. To me, it's one big mix. Apparently, it's important to separate them because you get confused. I don't know. Yeah. So, Nyung means obvious or evident, and Gyur is that is, or that which is. So these are three levels of reality. One level of reality is things that are obvious.
So that means
To the specific boxes, yeah?
This is like that which is.
Gyur is that which is. And so what it means is those things that can be perceived without any problem, things that are obviously obvious. For example, you know that there's a sound coming into your heads right now. Sound, sound. Word. We can all agree this is a word. A word's popped in, you have a pramana, that you have a word. This is part of your obvious perception. Yeah? You have a body, you're breathing. Yeah? These things. There's demons downstairs. So things that come in through the little holes in the boxes, not the way we interpret them, but the things that are coming in, they are obvious at that level of reality. Yeah? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Obvious or evident reality. That which is obvious or evident. So Nyungyo. Things that are clear to all the boxes. Say Kokyur. And Kok means hidden. And Gyur means?
That which is.
Okay, that which is hidden. So, what are some things that are hidden to your knowledge? What are some Kokyur things in your life?
Other people's thoughts.
Other people's thoughts? You don't know what they're thinking. That's good. Other people's motivations, unless they tell you. But if I tell you what my thought was to be really kind to you just now.
And you were.
Does that mean that's what I thought?
No, that's what you're saying you thought.
Okay. So what's
That's what
obvious
I'm
reality
understanding
out of that?
you thought.
What's obvious reality? What's Nyongyur out of that conversation, and what's Kokyur out of that conversation?
Actual
What
words
you
that
said.
came out, right?
There are words that came out, right? That did something in my head. That's it. It's not hard. It's just that. Yeah? Obvious stuff. We have it. We have them all the time. You're stepping, you're walking, you're breathing, you're moving, you're seeing. Yeah? But then there's something about your world that you can't be very clear about. Yeah? Some Kokyur.
Is
Yeah?
the cocky more like the intention behind it? Like the
When it comes to thoughts, yes, but then, for example, the classic example is that's obvious, right? What is it?
Brownie?
It's a fig bar. It's not obvious that it's a fig bar, but it's some kind of something, right? Okay, but where is the fig bar now?
In your hand.
How do you know that?
You can see it.
You're just having a direct experience of this, right? Where is the fig bar now?
In your hand.
Where is it now?
I believe it's still in your hand.
Okay,
basically.
where is it now?
I don't know.
It seems to be on the floor.
How? Okay, it seems to be on the floor. That's all. You saw it. Yeah, she had a Nyongyo, and you had a Kokyur about it, right? Why? There's some things that are hidden. We do this part, this hidden reality, all the time. We do it at work. You know, there's implications behind things. We make assumptions about what things mean. Yeah.
So anytime we view an object, the three-dimensionality of the object is the cohere, because we really only see 2 dimensions in anything we ever see.
Yeah.
So is the third dimension always a hidden level?
That's interesting. That's a nice question. That's a Kokyur, you're saying? The 3 dimensions?
Yeah.
Is it produced? Is it a pramana?
Until
Let's
further
chew on that. I
inspection.
don't know the real answer. That's a good question. But let's go just with what we know is convention for these boxes. Yeah? For now. For understanding the mind-only school's presentation of these 3 realities. You can get, for most of the stuff, you can get a obvious perception. Yeah? For the Kokyur, you actually need some kind of thinking or reasoning. So you learn something that when you hear something drop, yeah, that means something fell, right? And somehow we learn that. But really, when you analyze it, if you were to slow things right down and really catch what data you got, you made a jump of logic, yeah? to close the gap in your cochlear, in what's hidden. Yeah? And some things are not hard, and that wasn't hard to do. We actually somehow learned it through mum and dad and living quite naturally. We're just not trained at it. And this is what the Tibetans are incredible about. They've gone, oh, let's have a look. If that's over there, how can it be over there? And if it made that sound, then we made the assumption. And we're just like, you dropped it. Let's look at the next thing. Well, it's cold in Tibet.
So is it logical inference? Is that the easiest way?
Yeah, you could say logical inference, but you could, it just requires some thinking.
So
Yeah.
interpretation of the first one could be the second.
Absolutely. Yeah, good. Nice. Yeah. So thought or reasoning. So you could actually, art is really good at this. You could be going past a car that's squashed against a tree on the side of the road, and you'd make an inference that could be reasonable and could lead you to a correct perception that there was an accident, right? That's good. That's all that is. That's it. Got it? The classical, so remember, like I said at the beginning, you can apply pramanas, you can apply the way your mind thinks towards, am I going to make rent, just average objects, or you can apply it about really big things. The exercise is the same. The habituation of the mind is the same. It's just that the result of applying it to a bigger object will probably give you bigger results, bigger gains, or however you want to say. So the classical example of what's cochlear in Tibetan or in Buddhist scripture is, one thing would be subtle impermanence. So the car crashing into the car crashing into the tree is nongyur. That was obvious, right? They crashed. If you saw it, let's say the impermanence of a car is nongyur. So things break. We know things break, right? But then subtle impermanence is that millisecond by millisecond your body is changing. Your body is breaking. Millisecond by millisecond, everything around you is disintegrating. That's subtle impermanence. That's not obvious, like the car is finished. Yeah? That's obvious impermanence. The car broke. But subtle impermanence is to understand that everything, and you do this in meditation. When you're in meditation, you begin to go into more subtle levels of experience through your meditation. You get a sense that the people around you are forever shifting, disintegrating. Their skin is falling. That you get a sense. So that's an example. What would you apply the study of cochlear? What kind of things are cochlear are hidden from us, worth investigating? Because you can investigate a whole bunch of things that are hidden to you. But what are the things worth investigating? Well, this idea of emptiness, the potential in everything. The things don't have a nature from their own side. That's worth investigating. That's hidden to us. We don't know that. Yeah? And then people like Einstein, for example, have habituated that muscle in their mind to investigate the nature of hidden reality to a point that they can make connections onto important things. So it's worth exercising that muscle. So emptiness and subtle impermanence. And then Shinto cochlear, say Shinto cochlear.
Shinto cochlear.
Shinto means very, very. Yeah? A lot hidden. Very hidden. Shinto cochlear. Imagine stuff even further than emptiness and subtle impermanence and this vast sea of knowledge in our hidden reality. Imagine that in that group there might be things that are very hidden, that require way more than reasoning from the little box with the 6 dots. That a bigger muscle needs to be exercised. So they say that for obvious reality, you just need a direct experience. You just see that's a color, that's a color. That's a taste, that's a taste. This is a sound, that's a sound. That's it. Just a direct experience, a perception, is enough to say that's an existing thing. That's a pramana. You can have a pramana towards a cochlear, a hidden thing, using logic, reasoning. Then you can have a pramana. You can have a valid perception, that's gone in there. If you exercise that muscle, you can get more and more valid perceptions like Einstein. What about for Shinto Kokyu? Can you use your mind to have a pramana? They say no. Yeah? This is an interesting topic. It pissed me off a little bit. You must rely on the authority of someone who has that bigger mind. Remember we talked last week about, I know you hate that, I knew you were going to hate that. It's good that you hate that. Because that it bothered me. Like, you have to rely on authority from another kind of being. Except from an authority.
The thing is that's not different to going to the doctor, right?
Exactly.
One goes to the doctor and they tell you all this stuff, and you're like, well, I don't know. I didn't go to school for 15 years to do that diagnose, so I must trust it.
Absolutely.
Is that the idea of karma, that we don't get it, we don't understand it, but we have to rely on people who have it, have perception, understand karma?
That's it.
That we just need to believe.
In fact, that's one of the classical, well, not karma, but the subtle workings of karma. So you can get a pramana, which is a correct perception around karma. You can get one. You can get a mental valid perception around karma because you begin to have experiences. Yeah? And then using some thinking or some logic or some inference, you could, you can go, it's hidden to you, the laws of karma, but you can have a valid perception about it. But the subtle workings of karma, why is that thread, why did the grains that made that thread sit on that side of the tanka and not on that side of the tanka? If everything has a reason, if everything has a cause, that must also have had a correlation and a cause. And that's Shinto Kokyu. And in the West, we tend to go, oh, who cares, too hard. But think about that. That gives us some kind of negative prejudice. There's a reason for it. And if there's a reason for it, a trained mind can find it. That's Shinto Kokyu. And that's the story about the doctor. You go to somebody that's had that experience. The Buddha could sit here and go, in fact, when the rice fields were growing over here and it was windy to the left, and so those seeds went over there and that grew those weeds over here, and the harvesters picked them up and then they took them to the mill. I don't know. And then there'd be another Buddha, Maitreya, would have a discussion with them going, yes, and it was a hot day, or something, I don't know. But they would get the subtle workings of how that came to be. I think it's late. It's warm. Let's get the aircon on. I'll give you 10 minutes, please. Come back to cover the rest of the course. Thank you very much for listening. Be happy.